just on last week's game, kind of like I said after the game, really proud of our team going on the road and finding a way to win. Had a tough, first 4 games in conference, 3 of them on the road. Our guys found a way to win 3 on the road, and really proud of that. Now we're starting the second half of our conference schedule this week, and we got Air Force, who is a very talented football team. I know Coach Calhoun will probably say we have the most talent, but the proof's in the pudding year after year. They're a consistent winner. Their guys play extremely hard. They know what they're doing on both sides of the ball. They execute at a high level. Their offense is the tops in the conference in points per game at almost 37 or 38 points per game. They've got a quarterback that runs the show, that is an excellent runner, is a very good passer when they do throw it, and caused us extreme problems last year. They've caused everybody problems that they've played this year. So it will be a big challenge for us this week, getting ready to play a team that I believe has went to bowl games 9 out of the last 10 years, a team that won 10 games last year, that's in every ball game that they play. They know how to play. They're tough. They're scrappy. They're disciplined. And we got to go to work this week, get a plan. We're a little bit banged up, but we got to figure out who's healthy and get them on the field and get a plan to execute.
You did mention you are banged up. How is your depth going to be tested this week, and what's the availability, especially of like BC and Jamal?
Jamal Hicks had his pre-op today. I believe today is Monday, correct? Had his pre-op today. We'll have surgery either, I think, tomorrow, sometime this week. He will be out for probably the remainder of the season, maybe a shot at the end of the season. BC has a sprained MCL. As of yesterday, it's 2 to 3 weeks, but those things sometimes tend, how the guy comes back, what the swelling's like. I would probably say he's highly doubtful for this week, and we'll just, you'll probably take it on a week-to-week basis with him.
You did say you were impressed with kind of how the guys filled in last week when needed. Have you been seeing that through practice, and are you going to find out just how ready they are to go?
Yeah, that's why you practice. That's why guys get reps. And we've got to get guys. We got to get the right guys in the right spots, and we got to figure out how we're going to put them on the field this week and execute our game plan. But I don't know the answer to where everybody's going to be and who everybody's going to play yet.
Mike, a couple other injury just questions. Dietrich Clark, you said, was precautionary more. You think you'll have him this week?
Well, it wasn't really precautionary. It was, I might have said that after the game, but he really was in red all week. It's going to be a game time decision. He did not look good in warm-ups catching the ball, so we decided to hold him. So it will be a day-to-day thing this week. Our goal is to get him ready to play. So it'll probably be, right now I would say he's questionable.
Also, Max McDonald, Sean Johnson. I mean, it was a tough game for you guys.
The 2 guys that are for sure out right now are BC Johnson, was highly doubtful. Jamal Hicks is definitely out. Max McDonald is going through the protocol of a head injury, and that's the trainers and the doctor's decision, so he's out right now. Sean Johnson's fine. Who was the other guy you asked me about? Was that it?
I think that was it. Darnell left twice, but
Darnell's fine.
He came back and played.
Darnell's fine. So, Max, BC, Jamal, Dietrich, and BC and Jamal for sure. Max is in the protocol. Dietrich is going to be, a tolerance thing of what he can do and how he feels with his shoulder.
With Max and Jamal out, how does that impact defending the option? Because each of them were the leading tackler in the game at the point they left the game.
Well, it does. I mean, you lose your starting will linebacker and your starting safety. We're going to have to, figure out who's out there and get those guys ready to play.
You look at the way Nick's playing, he's probably the top quarterback in the conference right now, but could you not make a case for Worthman, what he does in that offense, that he might be playing as well as anybody?
This guy, since I believe it was the Fresno game last year, right? The week before we played them, when they inserted him into the lineup, and they were having a close game, and he came in and took that game over and won the game the week before we played them, I believe. And then And then from that point on, their offense has really been close to averaging 40 points a game. He's dynamic in what he does. He's a strong runner. He makes that offense go.
And then when you look at the way like Nick and Mike connected 2 weeks ago and then last week, so just kind of highlight it's not always as easy as it looks, or what did you find out going back and looking over
Well,
game tape?
I mean, I thought we missed some early, which, we've been so good at the deep ball, and a lot of usually those are around 33% when you complete a deep ball, and we've been closer to 50-50 or a little bit higher. And when you miss some of those, sometimes like what's going on, but it weren't high percentage throws we were throwing. Those were balls down the field that were shots, and sometimes those serve a purpose even though they're not complete. And I thought we missed some, and then it was kind of like a little bit of we're panicking and starting to aim the ball instead of sighting it up and throwing the ball. When you aim, sometimes you tend to miss more. You just got to sight it up and throw the football. And I thought he started to put a little bit of pressure on himself instead of relaxing. But, at the end of the day, you're not always, open don't count. It does not count. You've got to hit it. But the good thing was we didn't turn the ball over. Throwing the ball was a positive. And then we made enough plays to win, on third down. Now, would you like to hit some of those guys? It could change the game or change the complexity of how they might play you defensively. But this defense is a little bit similar. They're going to put guys in the box. They're going to commit to stop the run. There's going to be one-on-one opportunities out there. And they're low percentage throws a lot of times. And that's what these teams bank on, that they're low percentage throws and you're not going to hit them. But we're still going to be committed to the run game. I believe it's our best way to win the ball game. But we do have some talented receivers and a talented quarterback where we're going to put the ball in the air.
Mike, you mentioned that these two options are different kinds of options, but what can you use from last week's performance to prepare for Air Force?
Well, you got responsibility, the discipline of playing your assignment. They're a little bit different, and this is probably true more. Now they do all the stuff that New Mexico does too, but they're still more traditionally. They're in a double slot, but it'd be like an old wishbone team. But you still have your assignments: who has the dive, who has the quarterback, who has the pitch. All of those things that you have in New Mexico, because New Mexico runs option football. So, it's still assignment football and playing your assignment and doing your job and making sure you're taking care of your area of responsibility.
Now, with you guys kind of gaining a little bit more national attention, I mean, you got some votes in the polls for the last couple of weeks. How do you keep your team grounded with this national recognition?
Well, I mean, I think, there's a lot of things that we can improve on as a football team. Offense and defensively and special teams, and the goal is to win 1 week at a time. And it's been since I've been here, and especially this year, we got to focus on what we can control, and that's getting ready for this week and focusing on our job, and that's coaches and players. You can't I say it all the time, you got to ignore the noise outside. And the first 2 years it was ignore the noise of the negativity that we were struggling. We were at this point of the season, we're fighting, trying to get bowl eligible. All right, it's a little bit different now. You're 4-0 in conference. You got a chance to play another conference game and stay ahead where you want to be in the race. So you got to ignore the noise outside, talking about everything else, which people like to do, down the road. We got to focus on what we do today. And that's my job as a coach, to get that point across to our assistant coaches, and our assistant coaches get that point across to our players. And that's our MO too, of how we operate on a daily basis. We're not, only a handful of teams in the country that are good enough to go out there and just win every week. Everybody else you watch, it's dogfight every week, dogfight. I know we'd like to go out there and blow everybody out, but that's not realistic. I mean, it's going to be a dogfight this week, and we're going to have to play one of our best games to win this ball game.
Mike, is this going to be a bigger test this week, maybe of your depth, than any test you face this year, just because of having so many key guys that are hurt, are doubtful, or are definitely out?
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of yesterday and last night and then this morning has been about personnel. As a coach, you're figuring out how you're going to align your personnel to give you a best chance to be successful. You got some guys out, so you got to think about moving some personnel around to put people in position where we can be productive and execute. Offense, defense, and special teams. When you've got these injuries on that we're talking, focusing on offense and defense, but it hurts you in special teams two. So it's, it's getting a plan. The good thing is that, we played an option style last week. Okay, so schematically, will be similar, and just repping those assignments and what we've got, the area of responsibility, and then always every week offensively, it's how you gonna move your person around to give you the best matchup. We get BC is a big part of our offense, plays a lot of things, does a lot of things for us offensively in a different, not just always catching the ball. He's our move guy, so we've got to figure some things out there, and he's our punt returner. So we got to figure out who's going to be the punt returner in this game.
Is Trey Smith back yet?
Trey Smith is back. He's been back. He did not play any offensive snaps last week. He played on kickoff and punt, I believe.
When you went back and looked at some of the plays that New Mexico hit on you in the run game, was it fullback responsibility type thing? Were they clean up things that you could target to kind of move forward?
Yeah, it was doing your job.
Yeah.
It was doing your job, and then there were sometimes they did a nice job schematically of scheming us up and getting an extra hat, pushing the zone to the unblocked player, just some things that they did. But a lot of times it's doing your job. But that's every week. It's do your job, but sometimes the other team can do their job a little bit better than you did yours and out-execute it. And they out-execute us a couple times. Now, the big plays that were, huge plays where a guy goes untouched down the middle of the defense, we didn't do our job there.
You grew up.
Sometimes it's discipline of your eyes. Sometimes we're playing so hard and our guys are playing hard, you're trying to do too much. Just do your job. And you got to depend on the other 10 guys out there. I'm talking about the guy that might have made a mistake on a play you're talking about. He's trying to do somebody else's job instead of do his. And, it's a good thing that they care and they want it, but the way a defense works is everybody's got to be gap sound and do your job.
You did grow up in an option household, so do you have an appreciation for not just what Worthman can do physically, but how he makes the decisions that make that offense go?
It's scary stuff when you watch these option teams, and you watch the Air Forces and the Navies and the Georgia Techs that run similar, offenses like this, and the quarterback, we talk about a quarterback in a drop back offense, has to make quick decisions and progressions and, from one read to two read, but the option, it happens even faster, because that ball's in your hand at the line of scrimmage. You're not in a shotgun, and here comes an end or here comes a backer, and you're having to pull it. You have to, and then you have to pitch it quick. Then you have to, what they do is very impressive, and to do it, over and over and over again, and you're taking, you're basically a running back, and you're getting tackled, and then you got to come up back the next play, and you've got to communicate what the play is. You've got to direct the offense, and you got to execute that ball is in your hand, and that takes a lot. You have to be a tough-minded individual, mentally and physically, to play an option quarterback, and this kid is. He's very impressive.
You give Nick a lot of credit for getting you in and out of the right plays, checking into right things. Is it comparable what these two guys are doing?
It's probably more,
Yeah.
because everything an option team is based off numbers, where they have the numbers and how your coverage is aligned, and they make that decision, and he makes that decision at the line of scrimmage. So it's every play. They don't want a wasted play either, and our wasted, not getting a wasted play is a lot of times turn around and hand it to a running back. They're getting into a play where they have an advantage, and then that quarterback still has to execute 2 or 3 things for that play to be successful. Where our quarterback in a pro style, he's getting us out of a bad play, and the other 10 guys are executing, and he's handing it off. They're getting out of a bad play, going to a play where they've got numbers, and then that quarterback's got to execute it for it to work. So it's a lot more impressive, in my opinion.
After the game you talked to, they were playing a lot of 8-9 man in the box. Was this maybe one of your more impressive games from your offensive line, considering how well you ran the ball against that kind of front?
Well, I thought when we had to, we ran the ball extremely well. I did not like the penalties, some of the holding calls. It was just, our hat and hands weren't in the right spot. And they did a lot of things, that was different from the year before to try to make us change our blocking schemes that were smart on what New Mexico did by walking up a backer when they showed an outside blitz. They did a lot of things that kind of was a tell for us last year that got us off we weren't on the same page because of what they did. But I thought we played hard, we played physical. I thought Izzy ran physical. I thought they did a nice job. You know, some of the pass protection, the one sack we gave up, we repped that 1,000 times. It was a bust by one of our linemen, which shouldn't have happened, which was disappointing. But you know, when they got everybody up there and they're bringing guys, sometimes you know you overthink things instead of doing your job, and that's a credit to them. But they did a nice job. We still, you know, we're going to look at some things with our offensive line this week. Maybe move some guys around, but we'll see.
Mike, this isn't first of 2 straight rivalry games for trophies. Do you ever talk about those things leading up to those games, or is that just something you worry about after the fact that it takes care of itself?
No. We talked about it last week. You know that hey, this was our 4th conference game, our 3rd on the road, and then we get a chance to come back home and play a rivalry game at home in our stadium in front of our crowd, where there ought to be a lot of excitement. And, you know, where you're going to have more energy brought to the game because it's a rivalry game. You know, you got, you know, and I said, we got 2 rivalry games. You got Boise State, and then you got senior night. You know, so let's, you know, last week, let's give everything we got, lay it on the field, which we did last week for 60 minutes. I mean, it was a tired locker room. There wasn't much celebrating because everybody laid it on the field for 60 minutes. And, you know, and now you hope that because you're playing Air Force, it's a rivalry game. At home, 1 o'clock, sellout. You know, there's going to be a lot of other energy that's going to help us, you know, get ready for this week. It ought to be more energy in this week's practice because you're playing Air Force, a school in state. It ought to be more energy, all right, in this practice because you got a chance to go to 5-0 in conference, all right, what you're playing for. You're coming back home, you know, so all those things will help motivate a team, you know, their focus. If we focus on this right now today, not the question you asked me about, Wyoming or Boise or wearing this uniform. I almost said something bad there. Wearing those uniforms, you know, Boise or you know, it's like somebody wanted to do a photo shoot with our guys for the uniforms for the Boise game. I'm like, heck no, we're playing a rivalry game, playing Air Force. That's the only thing we're thinking about, you know. But people want to think about everything else down the road. We're focused on Air Force.
Mike, what can you say about Wyatt Bryan's just his improvement to this point in the season?
Well, Wyatt has done a excellent job since year 1 when we challenged him. He was a little bit inaccurate year 1. Did not think he got great height on the ball. And, you know, we challenged him. He had to get better. And like a lot of kickers do, kickers and punters all across the country, they go to work. And a lot of it's on their own and their own dime and going places and hiring, you know, and working out with specialists. And he went to work. He got stronger. You know, I thought he was a really good kicker for us last year. I thought he's becoming to be an elite kicker, one of the better kickers in this league. You know, I mean, the last 2 weeks, you know, the 2 kicks that, you know, I know he missed the extra point in the field, but that one field goal was big. This field goal Saturday night was huge. And, you know, there wasn't really any doubt in my mind because that was the line. That's what we said, you know, going into the game, that we can make it from there. And, you know, that's why we practiced. That's, you know, and he said he could make it, and I believed him. And where before, you know, a couple years ago, I might have went for it there. Ran 2 runs, you know. So in that point, that ought to show that we got confidence in him that we'll attempt that kind of field goal.
Thomas, you know, we had 95 yards in the first quarter. Penny ran for 164 yards against the San Diego State game.
Which one was Thomas?
Thomas, you know,
The running back, yeah.
just the running game. Having a productive night or day.
Well, we got to block them. You know, I mean, they're going to put 8, 9 guys in the box, and we got to do a good job of getting a hat on a hat. A lot of times they're going to have an unblocked player, a safety that's unblocked, and that's where your running back has got to make them miss or run over them. Where Penny has the speed, UNLV's running game, their quarterback, Armani, is a little bit of it's not an option, but he's a threat to run the ball. So the ability for him to take an extra defender out of the box, because a lot of it was gun runs, benefited the running back for UNLV. Well, we're not that kind of team, you know, so it's more of us trying to get a hat on a hat and leave the farthest away to the ball carrier, leave that guy for the running back. But, you know, you've watched us play. We're going to be committed to the run. We're going to run the ball. But they're a scrappy bunch. They're a 3-4 team that likes to, blitz off the edges and has a little bit different than New Mexico because they have internal pressures, where New Mexico is mainly edge pressures. They did give us some internals this past week, but Air Force runs some internal pressures, which are good run down stoppers.
This was about the time last year where we saw some of your depth start to come in and play, especially on defense, like Alan Gagne started coming and playing a little bit. Jamal, is your depth developing in that way? Are there some guys that you've seen some improvement on that might be helping you late in the year?
Well, we'll see. I mean, Sean played some, played more than Hawkins the other night. I think that's a example of depth. Where Sean Johnson got out there and played a lot of snaps. So you got Sean and you got Sweet and you got Hawkins. And you got Kevin Nutt, so that's 4, corners in the secondary. In the safeties, you've got Slager and Jordan Fogle, but Jaden Walker and Kavamaka, who've been practicing a lot, are going to have an opportunity, to possibly play in this game, and we'll see. I'm not sure yet. Anyone's sure about Robert either, but it's, you play guys because they earn it in practice, and sometimes guys got to play because some guys got to get injured. This is a little bit about guys getting injured at the safety spot and the backer spot, so guys are going to step up. In the corner, we've been playing some guys that we've developed some depth there.
Mike, you kind of touched on it earlier. There are only a handful of teams maybe that can go out and blow people out week in, week out. Is it a sign that maybe this program has taken some kind of turn, that people are upset that you're not winning by more when you're 4-0 in the conference, when you hear people kind of criticize, well, they should have won by 20 instead of by 2 or
Well,
things
nobody
like that?
sets a higher standard or higher expectation on our play than we do. I mean, we want to execute at a high level offensively and defensively every week, and our goal is to play, to perfection. We know we're not going to reach that, but that's our goal every week, and that's how we coach. But at the end of the day, sometimes things you don't hit passes. Sometimes the ball doesn't bounce your way. Sometimes guys, have a good design and they're able to move the ball on you, and it's finding a way and fighting through, and playing for 60 minutes when things aren't perfect. It's easy to go out there when everything goes right and play, play hard and everything's good. But it's just the tough times when things aren't going well, when you get behind, or when you aren't completing some passes and you're a little bit frustrated offensively. What are you going to do? What are you going to do as a coaching staff, and to figure out how to move the ball? What are you going to do on the other side of the ball if the offense is struggling to get some stops? And I thought that's what we did on Saturday. It wasn't perfect. It wasn't perfect. And, and I know they, on their side of the ball, New Mexico, they probably wish they had a couple back where they had a chance to complete some. And at the end of the day, we found a way to get some stops. Now, are we going in here in these meetings and saying, hey, we're perfect, we're great, we're 4-0, we're doing a great? No. I mean, we're going to correct the things and say, these are the things that we got to do on a week-to-week basis to get better and still improve. But that comes with, it's like the expectations. I told the expectations are going to be bigger this year because of this facility, because of the commitment to athletics, because of the commitment to football. But like I said in the press conference, and I want to be at a place that has high expectations. I want to be at a place that has a passionate fan base. All right, and to me, a passionate fan base, all right, that expects you to win every week, shows up for ball games every week too. That's where I want to be. So a place like that. All right, and I'm excited about it this week. I'm looking forward to playing in front of our home crowd and them getting to see their team play.